Hi, I'm Elisa D. Hope everybody had a good week. Hope your week was better than mine. I have a heavy heart. I have a family member who's not well in the hospital with COVID, and I have a dear friend whose moments might be numbered. And I hope I can get through this. In this week's parasha, Moses addresses the Jewish nation pretty much for the last time. He says, I am 120 years old today, and I can no longer go out and come in. And often in Judaism you might hear, but you don't know the source of, when people say to another, may you have a long life and live till 120. And this is the source. Moses lived till 120. So we say that in his memory and his honor. But the question is, why 120? Noah lived till 950 years old, and Abraham passed away at 175 years old. So I guess, the more the merrier, the more the better, I should say. Then why don't we bless people for those amounts of years and not 120? And the reason is because Moses had a perfect, complete life. He fulfilled his very mission and his raison d'etre for coming to this world. So that is the optimum, and that is the blueprint for all of us. You see, it's not how many days that you can count, but how many days you make count. How many of us are frivolous with our time? And every day is tomorrow. But sometimes tomorrow doesn't come. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to keep this together, so you have to forgive me. And I think, and I hate to bring it up in the middle of having around 5 Torah books open in front of me, but I think of the song by Barry Manilow, If Tomorrow Never Comes, Will She Know How Much I Love Her? We are all in a relationship with God, and we don't know what our tomorrows are going to look like, and if we will have many more tomorrows. But the question is, if tomorrow never comes, will God know how much we love him? Will the people in our lives know how much we love them? I say this over and over again, and I don't mind being told off for repeating myself, because after finishing the 5 books of Moses, which we are set to finish very soon, we see the same phrase over and over again. And God said to the people, and Moses said to the people, and he said to the people, and he said to the people, because when you love, you don't stop talking, and you don't stop trying to improve people and to bring them closer to the one thing that they were meant to do in this life, and is to serve Hashem and to keep his Torah. Moses' days counted for something because he made them count by fulfilling his duty on this planet, and that was to serve God, to be an Eved Hashem. So it says that Moses went out. This parasha, Vayelech. Hold on. It says Moses went out, but it doesn't went out. Moses went, and it doesn't tell us where he went. But the sages teach that Moses went into the heart and core of every Jew for every generation, so that he lives inside of all of us. And there's a thing called the Pintel Yid, the spark of a Yid inside that never dies, no matter how encumbered you are by materialism and foreign cultures and all types of phony lives, but underneath burns a little flicker flame of a Jew that lives inside that can never be extinguished. So although Moses, in this week's parasha, had to hand over his duties to Joshua, and it was with great pain for Moshe Rabbeinu to do so, the teachings of Moses never died. They were passed through Joshua, they were passed to the elders, they were passed to the sages, they were passed down to the people, and they were passed down through the generations, but they also live inside of us because Moshe Rabbeinu lives inside of all of us. And so we see in this week's parasha, it says that all these words that I give you today and all the commandments that I give you today, they are not in the heavens above. They're not far from you. They're not inaccessible that you should say, who shall ascend for us? They're inside of you. They live inside of you. We're taught that before each one of us is born, that an angel teaches us the entire Torah. And then the moment that we're born, about to be born, the angel hits us on the lip, and thus we all have that indent in top of our lips. And he makes you forget. So we are all predisposed toward the Torah because it's already been taught to us. It's already inside of us, and that's basically our whole duty in life. So no, Moses isn't here to teach us anymore, but we learn in Pirkei Avot that it says, who is wise? He who learns from anybody and everybody. He who learns from all men, to quote it specifically. So what does that mean, he who learns from all men? It's somebody who doesn't think that, oh, I'm a big rabbi, what can I learn from this person? Or I'm too intellectual, so what can I learn from that person? A wise person is a humble person. And a humble person knows he can learn from everybody. Not necessarily what to do, but sometimes what not to do. But you are not beyond, or we are not beyond, moral lessons or life lessons from other people. Not only do we learn from other people, but we learn in the Talmud that we could even learn from animals. From the cat, we learn modesty. From the mule, we learn modesty. From the donkey, we learn modesty. And from the ant, we learn not to steal. Because an ant smells the food of another ant and he knows it belongs to someone else. So the big geniuses that we are, that are above everybody and we're all know-it-alls, we can learn a lot from everybody. We can even learn from the animal kingdom. And I had an example of something where I even learned from a cup. So how did I learn from a cup? No, I didn't start talking to them like I'm in a Disney film. I once prepared a soup for myself. Very excited. My appetite was big. It smelled great. Poured it into the plate, into the porcelain cup. And just to double check, just to make sure, I don't know if I was looking for calories or something, I got I pulled up the can again to see what was in there, and I noticed that the soup wasn't even kosher at all. So, needless to tell you how heartbroken I was, that I couldn't eat it. I'm still lamenting that soup all these years later, but the fact is, okay, threw it away. But not only was the soup not kosher and not edible, but the ceramic cup, which came into contact with the soup, was no longer kosher either. And it taught me something about life, because yes, we think that life goes on forever. Nobody wants to really think about their death, but we do think about Moses and how those years counted. So how do I tie that together? You make time count by the people that you're associating with. People that can taint your well-being are not people that you should be hanging around with. A simple soup could taint a cup and make it not kosher. And it's a waste. The cup, I threw away the cup, it's a waste. But so much more so when we're the cup and it's our life and we're hanging around with the wrong people and being tainted by the wrong influences. Being in the wrong place with the wrong people, listening to the wrong things, watching the wrong things. All these things can taint you. And I'm not writing this, so, I'm making my finger quotation marks and they can make you not kosher. And you don't realize it, slowly by slowly, how these things can affect you and your personality and make you drop your guard. Our eyes, our ears, our mouths, these are all fences, gates through which we interact with the world. And we have to fortify those gates. And we learned through the sin of Eve in the Garden of Eden how her eyes led her to temptation, and listening to the snake, her ears led her to temptation, and she touched the fruit. The only sense that was not a participant in the sin in the Garden of Eden was that of smell. And that's why they say that when Mashiach comes, that's still going to be the strongest smell, the strongest sense, because he's going to be able to smell people's sins. He's going to have such a heightened sense of smell. And that's because the sense of smell was not diminished due to the sin. Also, psychologists will tell you that smell is the strongest link to memory. You'll smell something and it will bring you right back to your childhood. So, my friends, before you fill your cups and you fill your life with friends, with things that you watch, with things that you do, you have to have more discretion, because they will have an impact on you. I'm just thinking of another example. Many years ago, somebody gave me as a present a crystal snake, a dome snake, very expensive. And I am not a big fan of snakes, and I have to tell you that I hated this present, but it's somebody who visited me often, and what do? You say, I hate it. But it was on display in my living room for years, and every time I would pass by that snake, I would say, ugh, I hate it. And I wanted to smash it, but I didn't think that was the right thing to do in those days, although I can't tell you eventually that it didn't meet the good end, that snake. But as time went by, I actually stopped noticing it. And, it just blends into the atmosphere. And that too was a lesson for me. Because our senses, they become lulled by overexposure. If you see a perfume, a sales girl for perfume, she stops smelling the perfume. When you're with bad friends, you stop smelling, seeing, hearing, noticing all the things that are just not kosher. And you can have a snake right before your eyes and not even see it. So my advice to you, before I sign off before Shabbat, is not to let your senses fall asleep while they're on the job, but rather stand guard, be on alert, because there's no interaction that you have, none whatsoever, that leaves you as you were before. Make your days count. Make this new year count. Count your blessings. Value your friends who are of value. Guard your gates. Shabbat Shalom.